Beezie, do you remember what transcendental idealism has to say about space and time? No, hey? All right, that's okay. That was a little while ago. That was before you started teaching. So, back in the transcendental aesthetic, we talked about space and time as actually just conditions for the possibility of appearances. So, instead of thinking about them as things in themselves, as objects kind of in their own right that exist independently of us, they're actually just the conditions under which we experience the world. So these are the things that shape how objects are given to us. So so look, buddy, when you look at stuff, so when you see the ball in front of you, okay, you are going to see it as spatial, okay? Just like I do. Okay? So I'm pretty sure that for both of us, space and time are merely the forms of outer intuition. Okay? And there could be other kinds of beings out there who have other kinds of forms of outer intuition, but we don't really know about that. We just know about the kinds of beings that we are. So then in the antinomies, when these questions are asking about things like first beginning in time or a boundary of space, yeah, exactly. They're talking about space somehow in its entirety being given to us as infinite. But that's not really how it works, right? So it's not an object in and of itself that can be given to us or not, but it's a condition for our experiencing objects. So if we try to talk about it as though it were an object in its own right, we're neglecting the fact that it is just a condition for appearances. And something really similar can be said about causality as well. So when we talk about the question of there being a first cause or free will versus determinism or something along those lines. So even though the arguments that Kant is providing in the Antinomies are maybe some of the more extreme arguments for some of these positions, chances are that even more modest arguments along these lines would make a similar kind of mistake, namely treat the subjects under discussion as though they were things in themselves instead of conditions for the possibility of experience, like which is what categories are, and that's also what space and time are as well. They are mere conditions. Okay, and so what that means is that it doesn't really make sense to talk about things like an infinity of spaces being given to us. So I don't get to think about myself as representing all spaces all at the same time. Or somehow removing all possible division in thought. Now, I might be able to think of myself as continuing to divide up spaces. So I might be able to imagine myself kind of continuing to think, okay, but what about half that? What about half that? But at no point am I ever going to be given in experience the removal of, all division of space, like you see in some of the antinomies. So that's another way of seeing why some of these questions are misguided, because when you try to apply them to the kinds of things that Kant thinks space, time, and causality actually are, you can see that it's the wrong kind of question being applied.